Right now, something is unfolding in the waters between Iran and the United States that could define the next decade of Middle Eastern security, and the full truth of what happened is still being sorted from the fog of war, conflicting official statements, and competing claims from two governments that have every reason to shape the narrative in their favor. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps says it successfully struck a United States Navy aircraft carrier. The United States military says that never happened, and somewhere between those two positions lies a real confrontation, one that has already triggered American airstrikes, the possible sinking of Iranian naval vessels, and the largest concentration of U.S. air power in the Persian Gulf since the Iraq War in 2003. This is what we know, what's confirmed, what's disputed, and what it means starting right now. Let's begin with what the research actually confirms, because this story has two layers, and both of them matter. According to Iran International, a credible Persian-language news outlet that has consistently broken news out of Tehran, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps launched approximately 4 ballistic missiles toward the USS Abraham Lincoln, a Nimitz-class aircraft carrier operating in the North Arabian Sea off Iran's southern coast. The missiles involved, if the Iranian claim holds, are reported to be K-bar ballistic missiles, part of Iran's documented anti-ship arsenal. Here is what both sides agree on, and this is the one hard fact that cuts through the noise. United States Central Command, the military command overseeing all American operations across the Middle East, posted a statement that has been confirmed by multiple sources. CENTCOM's language was direct. The Lincoln was not hit. The missiles launched didn't even come close. That statement is not disputed. The Abraham Lincoln is intact. Its crew is safe, and whatever Iran launched, if it launched anything, did not reach its target. But what happened next made the situation far more dangerous than the failed missile strike itself. According to reporting from Task and Purpose, Naval Today, and Fox News, all citing CENTCOM announcements and video releases, the United States did not simply absorb the provocation and file a diplomatic protest. Washington launched what it is calling Operation Epic Fury. The timeline matters here. Reports place the initial U.S. strike on February 28, 2026. Suggesting American forces may have been tracking Iranian preparations and moved preemptively or near simultaneously. The operation reportedly involved Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles fired from U.S. destroyers, along with HIMARS rocket artillery systems and Army tactical missile systems, ATACMS, a precision ground-launched weapon with a range of roughly 300 kilometers. CENTCOM also announced that the USS Abraham Lincoln's battle group struck the Iranian drone carrier Shahid Bagheri, which was described as being on fire following the engagement. Fox News, citing a CENTCOM commander, reported that more than 30 Iranian naval vessels were sunk or destroyed during the operation. That figure, while attributed to CENTCOM Commander Admiral Brad Cooper, has continued to be scrutinized by open-source intelligence analysts reviewing satellite imagery. The gap between what officials claimed and what imagery showed is significant, and it's a gap this report is not going to paper over. We are noting it, tracking it, and watching for independent corroboration. What is confirmed? The Aegis weapon system, the United States Navy's layered missile defense platform installed on destroyers and cruisers, is believed to have played a role in ensuring the incoming Iranian missiles did not reach the Abraham Lincoln. The system combines radar tracking with standard missile interceptors, specifically the SM-3 and SM-6 variants, capable of hitting targets in the upper atmosphere and at sea-skimming altitudes respectively. CENTCOM stated only that the missiles did not come close, without specifying the exact mechanism of defeat. The carrier never came under threat it could not absorb. But that was just the surface of what's happening in this body of water right now. To understand why Iran would attempt, or claim to have attempted, a strike on a United States aircraft carrier, you have to understand who is making this decision and what they believe they gain from it. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, is not the conventional Iranian military. It is a parallel force that answers directly to Iran's supreme leadership, with its own navy, air force, intelligence apparatus, and proxy networks stretching from Lebanon to Yemen to Iraq. The IRGC has spent the better part of a decade developing what military analysts call an anti-access area denial strategy, a doctrine built around making the Persian Gulf too dangerous for American carriers to operate freely by threatening saturation missile attacks that could theoretically overwhelm U.S. point defense systems. The strategic logic for acting now, if Tehran did act, connects to several developments converging at once. Nuclear negotiations between Iran and the United States had been progressing in the days immediately before the strikes, with reports suggesting a potential breakthrough was close, according to diplomatic sources cited by multiple outlets. The International Atomic Energy Agency has confirmed Iran's uranium enrichment program continues to advance toward what the IAEA describes as threshold status, meaning Tehran is technically capable of producing weapons-grade material on short notice, though no weapons program has been confirmed. Simultaneously, Iran had been watching the United States deploy not one, but two carrier strike groups to the region, the USS Abraham Lincoln and the USS Gerald R. Ford, alongside more than 150 aircraft, including F-35C stealth fighters, F/A-18 Super Hornets, and EA-18G Growler electronic warfare aircraft. That is, as the Jerusalem Post's defense analysis noted, the largest American air concentration in the Gulf since the invasion of Iraq. Whether Tehran launched missiles as a strategic probe, a deterrence signal, or because its military genuinely believed it had a shot at damaging the Abraham Lincoln, the decision to engage a U.S. carrier, or claim to have done so, represents a threshold that has not been crossed in the modern era of U.S.-Iran confrontation. And the response, or what the official response claims to be, tells you everything about where this is going. The United States government has moved with a speed and scale that suggests Washington had already decided what it would do if this moment arrived. Operation Epic Fury, as described through official CENTCOM channels and corroborated by military reporting from Task and Purpose and Naval Today, was not a measured, proportional reply. It was a campaign. Pentagon spokesman statements as of March 7th acknowledged ongoing operations, a position that stands in direct tension with the operational claims coming out of CENTCOM's own social media and press releases. The State Department said it was monitoring the situation. That language, monitoring, is deliberately minimal. It signals awareness without commitment. The United Nations Security Council had not convened an emergency session as of March 7th. That silence is notable. Russia and China, both of whom hold a permanent Security Council veto power and have cultivated strategic alignment with Tehran in recent years, have issued no official statements. Their silence is not neutral. It is a calculation. Neither Moscow nor Beijing has an interest in publicly defending an Iranian missile strike on a U.S. carrier, but neither wants to be seen endorsing American military retaliation in the Gulf. NATO's response has been more active, though focused on a separate vector. Stars and Stripes reported that following an Iranian missile that reportedly came down near Turkish territory, a separate incident, not the Abraham Lincoln engagement, NATO raised air defense alert levels across the alliance's southern flank. That activation reflects how quickly this confrontation is radiating outward. Turkey is a NATO member. An Iranian missile near Turkish territory, regardless of intent, triggers alliance obligations and alarm across 32 capitals simultaneously. Allied nations, the United Kingdom, France, and Australia, all of which have maintained naval presence in the region, have not formally joined Operation Epic Fury. No Allied carrier participated in the retaliatory strikes. Washington, for the moment, is acting in the kinetic space with its closest partners. But for the people on the ground, none of that matters yet. In the port city of Bandar Abbas, on Iran's southern coast, where the IRGC's naval command is headquartered, residents described hearing explosions in the night hours following the reported U.S. strikes. Local reports, filtered through Iranian state media, which means they carry their own distortions, initially made no mention of the Shahid Bagheri being struck. The Iranian government has a documented pattern of suppressing reports of military losses and framing any engagement as a victory. What ordinary Iranians near the coast actually experienced, the sound of weapons, the sight of fire over the water, the uncertainty of whether the night would bring more, those accounts are sparse and unverified in independent reporting. On the American side, the human cost is confirmed, but still developing. CENTCOM publicly confirmed 3 U.S. service members killed and 5 seriously wounded during Operation Epic Fury, with the death toll subsequently rising to 6 as additional casualties were reported. When official sources and credible military reporting converge on those figures, the picture is becoming clearer, though the full accounting of what occurred has not yet been released in its entirety. Families of service members deployed with the Abraham Lincoln's Carrier Strike Group and with the destroyer squadrons operating in the North Arabian Gulf are waiting. They are doing what military families have always done, watching the news, checking phones, parsing language, and trying to determine whether the silence from official channels is routine or means something worse. The Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway through which roughly 20% of the world's daily oil supply transits, has seen tanker traffic slow dramatically as of early March, with reports of a de facto closure as commercial vessels avoid transiting waters where military operations are ongoing. Shipping lane data reflects growing disruption. No maritime authority had issued formal emergency routing advisories for commercial vessels as of March 7th, but the practical effect on traffic was significant. The strait does not close all at once. It closes gradually, as insurance premiums climb, as shipping companies quietly reroute, as tanker captains request military escorts that slow everything down. That process is already underway and will take weeks to fully appear in energy prices. And this isn't staying inside those borders. For Americans watching this story develop, the most direct connection runs through energy markets. Brent crude oil was trading at approximately $78 per barrel as of early March, slightly elevated from recent months, but not dramatically so. Markets have not yet fully priced in a sustained disruption to Gulf shipping, but that calculation rests entirely on the assumption that the Strait of Hormuz disruption does not deepen, and that Operation Epic Fury does not expand into a broader naval campaign. If either assumption breaks, the arithmetic changes fast. A sustained Hormuz disruption has historically pushed oil prices 20 to 30% higher within weeks. At current U.S. pump prices averaging around $3.20 per gallon, that would mean prices approaching $4 and potentially higher before summer driving season. The military commitment is already substantial and getting larger. 2 carrier strike groups in the Gulf represent roughly 20,000 American sailors and airmen, plus the destroyer, cruiser, and submarine assets that travel with each carrier. The Abraham Lincoln's Air Wing alone can conduct more strike sorties per day than most nations' entire air forces. If Operation Epic Fury requires sustained air operations, targeting IRGC missile batteries, command nodes, radar installations, the United States military has the assets in place to execute that campaign without additional deployments. That does not mean the campaign stays contained. It means the first phase can happen quickly, which often makes it harder to stop. Congressional response has been fragmented. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle have called for briefings. No formal authorization for military action has been requested or granted under the War Powers Act, which requires the president to notify Congress within 48 hours of deploying forces into hostilities and limits unauthorized military action to 60 days. Whether Operation Epic Fury triggers war powers obligations is a legal and political question that will be contested loudly in the coming days on Capitol Hill. The global economic picture beyond oil also carries risk. American retirement accounts with energy sector exposure have already seen modest volatility. Defense contractors, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, saw stock movement on news of the engagement. That is not a peripheral detail. It reflects market calculations about the duration and scale of what may be coming, and no one, on any side of this, has a clear answer for what comes next. The next 72 hours will determine whether Operation Epic Fury was a single, decisive, punitive strike designed to restore deterrence, or the opening move in a sustained military campaign. Intelligence analysts and former military officials cited in reporting from the Jerusalem Post and Lexington Institute have consistently warned that Iran's asymmetric strategy is built for endurance. The IRGC does not need to win a conventional engagement. It needs to make American operations in the Gulf expensive enough and uncertain enough that Washington eventually recalculates. Every Iranian missile that forces a Tomahawk response costs the United States roughly $1.5 million per shot. Every Iranian claim of a successful carrier strike, even a false one, is a propaganda weapon that circulates across the Middle East and feeds recruitment narratives for proxy forces in Iraq, Yemen, and Lebanon. The IRGC's Houthi allies in Yemen have been attacking commercial shipping in the Red Sea since late 2023. Iraqi Shia militias, aligned with Tehran, have conducted drone strikes on American bases in Syria and Iraq over the past 2 years. Iran does not fight alone, and it does not fight only in the Persian Gulf. Any escalation in the North Arabian Sea carries the risk of igniting pressure across all of those proxy fronts simultaneously. Exactly the saturation attack doctrine Iran has been developing for a decade, applied not just with missiles, but with geography. The nuclear dimension cannot be ignored either, though it must be approached with precision. The IAEA has confirmed that Iran's enrichment program continues and that Iran is at or near the technical threshold for weapons-grade uranium. No weapons program has been confirmed. No acceleration of weaponization has been announced. But the dynamic logic is stark. If Iran believes the United States is now conducting a campaign to degrade its conventional military, the pressure to accelerate toward a nuclear deterrent, the one capability that has historically guaranteed a nation's sovereignty against American military power, increases. That calculation does not require Iranian leaders to be irrational. It requires them only to look at the lessons of Libya and Iraq. Satellite imagery will be the next decisive piece of evidence. When Maxar and Planet Labs release updated imagery of Bandar Abbas, the IRGC naval facilities near Chabahar, and the waters where the engagement reportedly occurred, independent analysts will have a clearer picture of what Operation Epic Fury actually destroyed, and what was claimed but not confirmed. That imagery could arrive within 48 hours. What it shows will either validate the scale of the American strike or expose the distance between official statements and ground truth. The USS Abraham Lincoln is still at sea, its crew is still on station, and the IRGC has not officially announced whether it considers the exchange concluded or ongoing. Stay informed, stay aware, and do not look away from what is still unfolding.